Hello everyone, Ace here, and today I'd like to do a little bit of a response of sorts to fellow YouTuber Arch on the topic of gatekeeping, and more specifically what I believe to be an important detail that is largely being overlooked. And that being that the influence of the woke outsiders tends to come very specifically due to their influence on the companies that are responsible for our various fandoms, rather than them just being present in the fandom and demanding these changes. And I believe this is an important detail to overlook, specifically because for gatekeeping to even work properly, it wouldn't just have to be the fandom that we are filtering, but instead even those who are influencing the companies as well. And this latter bit is a far more difficult task at hand. For a start, I think it's safe to say that not all companies are necessarily part of the fandom of their own IP, meaning that their only invested interest in that particular IP is from a financial standpoint. But there is also an additional element that I need to discuss, something that has in the past made many of these companies all the more willing to heed the demands of the woke outsiders. And what I'm speaking of is a very specific promise that the SJWs tend to make when trying to push their ideology to these major corporations. That promise being that these changes will make the IP appeal to a wider audience, and also make those IPs more accessible, which by and large I would say is the #1 priority for many of the various entertainment industries, and something that has also resulted in a fair number of missteps, even if you exclude the IPs that have went woke. Now, the good news is that it does appear that at least some major companies are starting to learn their lesson about the faults of having accessibility be the #1 priority at the expense of everything else regarding your IP. And this should, at least in theory, make these companies less susceptible over time to the influence of woke culture, because that particular promise just isn't as important as it once was. But nevertheless, I do believe this does at least explain how the woke crowd were able to gain such influence despite possessing such few numbers. And I also believe this explains why it is, in my opinion, not enough to simply gatekeep the fandom. Because as much as I hate to say it, it would also appear to be somewhat necessary to gatekeep the companies that oversee the things that we enjoy. A task that I would still consider to be most difficult, to say the very least. But perhaps I am incorrect in this assessment, and for that reason I would most appreciate any feedback or discussion that could be had on this topic. But in any case, this has been Ace. Hope to see you guys again soon. Take care. Ace out.